Daniel Ashford came home at 2 in the morning. Nobody knew he was back. His flight from Singapore wasn't supposed to land until Thursday. The Connecticut estate was dark, silent, the way it had been for 6 years, ever since the night his wife Catherine was killed, ever since his twins stopped speaking. But then he heard something. Laughter. Children's laughter. Coming from the kitchen. His hand went to his phone, fingers hovering over 911, but something stopped him. That laughter. He knew those voices. Ethan, Emma, his 9-year-old twins who hadn't made a sound beyond humming and screaming for 6 years. They were laughing, and more than that, they were talking. What Daniel saw when he pushed open that kitchen door would shatter everything he thought he knew about his children, about healing, about the impossible space between broken and whole. Daniel stood in the darkened hallway, his heart hammering against his ribs. The marble floor was cold beneath his feet. He'd taken off his shoes at the door out of habit, the same way Catherine used to insist. Old routines die hard, even when the person who taught them is gone. The voice came again, a child's voice, clear and bright. "Can I have more of the yellow soup, Rafa?" Daniel's briefcase slipped from his hand. It hit the floor with a crash that seemed to echo through the entire house. But he didn't bend to pick it up. Couldn't, because that was Emma's voice. His daughter, Emma, who the specialists at Yale and Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic all said would never speak. Severe nonverbal autism, they'd written in their reports. Permanent, irreversible. He moved toward the kitchen like a man underwater, each step requiring conscious thought. The light spilling from under the door was warm, golden. He could smell something cooking, garlic, butter, something sweet and earthy he couldn't name. His hand touched the door handle. It was warm. And before we go any further, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, because I believe this story found you today for a reason. Maybe you're fighting your own impossible battle. Maybe you've been told something can't be healed, can't be fixed, can't be made whole again. Stay with me. This story is for you. Now, to understand what Daniel was about to see, you need to know how he got here. You need to understand the weight he'd been carrying for 6 years, the guilt that woke him at 3 in the morning and followed him through every billion-dollar deal, every board meeting, every empty success. Daniel Ashford built his first company at 23. By 30, he was managing a hedge fund that moved markets. By 35, he'd made his first billion. The Connecticut estate, 42 rooms, indoor pool, tennis courts, 6 acres of grounds, was supposed to be his gift to Catherine, their dream home, the place where they'd raise their family. The twins came when Daniel was 32, Ethan and Emma, born 3 minutes apart on a Tuesday morning in March. Perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes. Catherine's dark eyes, Daniel's stubborn chin. They spoke their first words at 10 months, walked at 11 months. By age 3, they were reading. And then came the night that ended everything. Daniel was in Manhattan, closing a deal, a pharmaceutical merger worth $3 billion. He was in a conference room on the 64th floor when his phone rang. By the time he got home, Catherine was dead on the kitchen floor, and his twins were locked in their bedroom closet, where Catherine had hidden them. They'd heard everything: the breaking glass, their mother's screams, the gunshots. The police caught the intruders 6 hours later. It didn't matter. The damage was done. Ethan and Emma stopped speaking that night. Completely. Totally. Like someone had flipped a switch in their brains and turned off the language center. They stopped making eye contact, started rocking back and forth for hours, humming the same 3 notes over and over. When anyone tried to touch them, they'd scream and hit their heads against the wall until they bled. The therapist came, 23 over 6 years. Physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, applied behavioral analysis, floor time, the picture exchange system. They tried medications, risperidone, aripiprazole, sertraline. Nothing worked. The therapists quit, one after another. Too violent, they said. Unsafe working conditions. The children were unreachable. Severe nonverbal autism with self-injurious behaviors, the diagnosis read. Prognosis, poor. Recommend long-term institutional care. Daniel refused. He would not put his children in an institution. So he turned his home into one instead. He installed security cameras in every room, 37 cameras total. He hired round-the-clock staff. He worked from home when he could, traveled when he had to, and spent every night watching those security feeds like a man possessed, watching for danger, watching for intruders, watching his children rock and hum and exist in a world he couldn't reach. He hadn't been able to protect Catherine. He would die before he failed his children, too. That was the man standing in the hallway at 2 in the morning, his hand on the kitchen door handle, hearing his daughter's impossible voice asking for more yellow soup. Daniel pushed the door open. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To understand the miracle Daniel was witnessing, we need to go back 3 months, back to the day Rafael Santos walked up the curved driveway of the Ashford estate carrying everything he owned in a single duffel bag. Rafael was 44 years old, lean and weathered like a piece of driftwood. He wore jeans and a white t-shirt, both worn soft from washing. In his bag, 4 changes of clothes, a chef's knife his father had given him, a photograph of a woman and a little girl, and a Bible held together with electrical tape. He'd come about the job posting. Private chef wanted for family household. The posting didn't mention the twins. It didn't mention a lot of things. Daniel met him in the front parlor. The room was decorated with Catherine's taste. Expensive, elegant, cold. Daniel sat behind a mahogany desk that had once belonged to a railroad baron. He didn't look up when Raphael entered. "You have references?" Daniel's voice was flat, exhausted. "No, sir." Raphael's accent was slight, musical. "I worked at a restaurant in Sao Paulo for 15 years. Then I came here. I worked at diners, small places, nothing fancy." Daniel finally looked up. He saw a man with kind eyes and cook's hands, scarred from burns, cross-hatched with knife cuts. Something about him seemed solid, real. "Why leave Sao Paulo?" Raphael was quiet for a moment. "My wife and daughter died 5 years ago, car accident. I couldn't stay there. Everything reminded me." Daniel's pen stopped moving. He understood that. God, did he understand that. "The job is simple," Daniel said. "Cook 3 meals a day. The twins have specific needs. They eat the same 5 foods: chicken nuggets, French fries, applesauce, plain pasta, graham crackers. That's it. Nothing else. If you try to give them anything else, they'll have a meltdown that lasts hours. Can you handle that?" "I can handle it," Raphael said quietly. "You'll have your own apartment above the garage. You don't interact with the children beyond meals. The day staff handles that. You cook, you serve, you clean up. That's the extent of your duties. Are we clear?" "We're clear." Daniel stood, extending his hand. "You start Monday. 3-month trial period." Raphael shook his hand. Daniel noticed his grip was strong, but not aggressive, steady. What Daniel didn't notice was the way Raphael's eyes had flickered when he mentioned the twins, the way his expression had shifted, just for a second, from polite professional to something deeper, recognition maybe, or understanding. Because Raphael knew something Daniel didn't. He knew what it was like to live in a body and brain that processed the world differently. He'd spent his whole life masking it, teaching himself to make eye contact even though it felt like staring into headlights, forcing himself to endure touch even though it made his skin crawl, learning to laugh at jokes he didn't find funny because that's what people expected. High functioning, they would have called it if he'd ever been diagnosed. But Rafael grew up in a small town in Brazil where they didn't have words for what he was, just strange and difficult and too sensitive. So he learned to hide it, learned to cook because the kitchen made sense. Recipes were rules, temperatures were consistent, ingredients behaved predictably. And over the years, he'd noticed something. When his anxiety got bad, the kind that made his chest tight and his thoughts loop endlessly, certain foods helped. Fish rich in omega-3s, turmeric, fermented foods, dark leafy greens. Foods that, he would later learn, affected neurotransmitter production, reduced inflammation, supported gut health. He'd taught himself the chemistry of cooking by accident, by necessity, by trying to survive in a world that felt too loud, too bright, too much. Raphael moved into the garage apartment on a Sunday. It was small, bedroom, bathroom, kitchenette, but the window looked out over the gardens and he could see the sky. That was enough. Monday morning, Raphael reported to the main kitchen at 6 a.m. The house manager, Mrs. Chen, showed him around. Industrial stove, 2 ovens, walk-in freezer stocked with chicken nuggets and French fries. The twins eat at 7, noon, and 5, Mrs. Chen said. She was a small woman, efficient, her voice carefully neutral. You prepare the food, you plate it, you leave it on the table. You do not approach the children. You do not speak to them. You do not make eye contact. Mr. Ashford has cameras everywhere. He watches. Do you understand? I understand. At 6:59, he heard them coming. The day nurse, a tired-looking woman named Gloria, led them into the kitchen. Ethan and Emma, 9 years old, thin, pale, moving in that distinctive way Raphael recognized immediately. The rocking, the hand flapping, the humming. But it was their eyes that stopped him. Empty. Not vacant. There was something there, some light deep down, but hidden, protected, like they'd locked themselves away somewhere safe and thrown away the key. Raphael set 2 plates on the table, 5 chicken nuggets each, exactly 5. Gloria had warned him. Any other number caused meltdowns. The twins sat. They didn't look at the food, just rocked and hummed. Then, simultaneously, they each picked up 1 nugget. Bit, chewed, swallowed. The motion was mechanical, automatic. They weren't tasting, just fueling. Raphael watched from across the kitchen, and something in his chest cracked open. These children weren't autistic. Or they were, but that wasn't the whole story. He recognized trauma when he saw it. Recognized that particular kind of absence that comes from witnessing something no child should ever see. He knew that absence. He'd worn it himself after his wife and daughter died. That first year when he'd gone through the motions of living without actually being alive. The twins finished eating. Gloria led them away. Raphael stood in the kitchen surrounded by industrial appliances and thought about his own daughter, Maria. She would have been 10 now. She used to sing while he cooked, dancing around the kitchen in her yellow dress. He hadn't been able to save her, but maybe he could help these children find their way back from wherever they'd gone. That night, Raphael couldn't sleep. He never could, not really. Sleep was when the memories came. So instead, he went to the kitchen at midnight, put on the lights, started cooking. Not chicken nuggets, real food. A Brazilian fish stew called moqueca. Coconut milk, lime, tomatoes, fresh cilantro. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and complex. He made rice the way his grandmother taught him, with garlic and olive oil. He made farofa, toasted cassava flour with bacon. He wasn't cooking for anyone, just cooking because it was the only thing that made sense anymore. He didn't hear them coming, didn't know they were there until he turned around and saw them standing in the doorway, Ethan and Emma, barefoot, wearing matching blue pajamas, staring at him with those hidden eyes. Raphael froze. The rules. Don't approach the children, don't speak to them. But they'd come to him. He set down his spoon. Slowly, carefully, he pulled out 2 chairs at the kitchen island. Hungry? He said softly. They didn't respond. But they didn't leave either. After a long moment, Emma took one step forward, then another. She climbed onto the chair. Ethan followed. Raphael's hands shook slightly as he served them. Small portions. He expected them to reject it, to start screaming, to rock and hit and shut down. Instead, Emma picked up the spoon, dipped it in the stew, brought it to her mouth, tasted. Her eyes went wide. She took another bite, and another. Ethan watched her, then did the same. They ate. The whole bowl, both of them. They ate like they were starving, like they'd been eating cardboard for years, and suddenly discovered food could taste like something. When they finished, Emma looked up at Raphael, really looked at him, made eye contact for the first time. She hummed, 3 notes, the same 3 notes they always hummed. But this time, Raphael understood. It was thank you, in the only language they left. "You're welcome," he whispered. They slid off the chairs and left silent as ghosts. Raphael stood in his kitchen, tears sliding down his face, and thought, what just happened? Upstairs, in his office, Daniel Ashford stared at his security monitors. He'd been working late, reviewing quarterly reports, when movement caught his eye. Camera 7. The kitchen. He watched Raphael cook, watched the twins appear, watched them eat, watched them make eye contact. Daniel's finger hovered over his phone. He should call Gloria, call Mrs. Chen. This was a violation of protocol. The chef was not supposed to interact with the twins. But they'd eaten. They'd eaten something other than their 5 safe foods, and they hadn't screamed. Daniel watched until the twins left, watched Raphael stand there crying. Then he closed the window, turned off the monitor. He didn't call anyone. Something in him, some instinct he'd thought died with Catherine, whispered, wait, watch, see what happens. The midnight visits became routine. Raphael would wake at 11:30, unable to sleep, and go down to the kitchen. By midnight, the twins would appear, like they'd been waiting, like they could smell the food 2 floors away. Raphael cooked different things every night. Brazilian recipes his grandmother taught him, Portuguese fish with roasted peppers, turmeric chicken with coconut rice, miso soup with mushrooms and seaweed. He wasn't doing it intentionally at first, he was just cooking what he knew, what comforted him. But then he started researching, started understanding the why behind what he'd discovered through trial and error. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish. They supported brain health, reduced inflammation. The twins were eating salmon, mackerel, sardines. Their bodies were getting what they needed to repair neural pathways. Turmeric, curcumin crossed the blood-brain barrier, acted as an anti-inflammatory, possibly helped with neuroplasticity. He added it to everything, golden and earthy. Fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt, fed gut bacteria, and the gut-brain connection was real. 90% of serotonin was produced in the gut. The twins' digestive systems had been destroyed by years of processed food. He was rebuilding them from the inside. Leafy greens rich in folate, eggs packed with choline for neurotransmitter production, blueberries full of antioxidants. Raphael wasn't trying to cure autism. He understood that it wasn't how it worked, wasn't what this was, but he was giving their bodies the tools to heal from trauma, to reduce the inflammation that made everything harder, to support the chemical processes that allowed brains to form new connections. And something was happening. Day 7. Emma's fingers stopped twitching during meals. The constant tremor that had been there for years just quieted. Day 12. Ethan held his head up for a full minute without that rigid, stressed posture. His shoulders dropped, relaxed. Day 19. Emma reached across the table for the salt, not rocking, not humming, just reaching, like a normal child would. Day 24. Ethan made a sound that wasn't humming, a small laugh, brief, startled, like he'd surprised himself. Raphael didn't tell anyone. This was private, sacred almost. These hours between midnight and 2 a.m. belonged to the 3 of them, him and these 2 broken children trying to find their way back. He started talking to them while he cooked. Nothing demanding, just words. Stories about his grandmother, about Sao Paulo, about his daughter Maria. He told them about the yellow dress she used to wear, about how she'd dance in the kitchen while he cooked. The twins didn't respond, but they listened. He could tell by the way their humming would quiet when he spoke. Week 5. It was Emma who spoke first. Raphael was making his grandmother's recipe for chicken hearts. Yes, hearts, which sounds weird, but trust me on this. Cooked with garlic and lime. Emma was sitting at the island, watching him work. My mama died, she said suddenly. Raphael's knife stopped mid-chop. He set it down carefully, turned to face her. I know. I'm very sorry. Bad men came. She hit us, but we could hear. Her voice was small, flat, like she was reciting a weather report. She screamed, then she stopped. Raphael's throat closed. He came around the island, moving slowly. He didn't touch her, just stood close enough that she knew he was there. My wife died too, and my daughter. A car hit them. I wasn't there. I couldn't protect them. Emma looked up at him, really looked. Does it hurt forever? Yes, Raphael said honestly. But the hurt changes, gets quieter, makes space for other things, good things. Emma nodded, then went back to being silent. But something had shifted, some wall had cracked. 3 nights later, Ethan spoke. They were eating pão de queijo, Brazilian cheese bread, warm and stretchy. Ethan was on his 4th piece. Why do you cook at night? Because I can't sleep. The quiet is too loud. Ethan nodded like that made perfect sense. The quiet is loud for us too. Is that why you come downstairs? We smell the food. It smells like someone cares. Raphael had to turn away, blink hard, breathe. By week 8, they were having conversations, real conversations. The twins told Raphael about the therapists who'd quit, about the medications that made them feel fuzzy and wrong, about how much they missed their mother. Daddy thinks we're broken, Emma said one night. You're not broken, Raphael said firmly. Then why can't we talk to him? Raphael was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes people hurt so much that they can't see past their own pain. Your father loves you, but he's scared. Of what? Of losing you, like he lost your mother. Ethan frowned. But we're right here. I know, but fear doesn't always make sense. The twins started eating normally during the day too, not just the midnight meals. Gloria reported to Mrs. Chen, who reported to Daniel. The children were trying new foods, eating vegetables, drinking water instead of just milk. Daniel watched on the cameras, watched his children transform, watched them stop rocking as much, stop hitting themselves, start to sit calmly, to focus, to exist in their bodies without that constant distress. He should have been happy, relieved, grateful, but instead, he felt something dark and complicated because he hadn't done this. The chef had done this. The man he'd hired to cook chicken nuggets had succeeded where 23 specialists had failed. Daniel couldn't decide if he was grateful or angry, maybe both. At week 10, Daniel decided to come home early, unannounced. He wanted to see what was happening during the day, wanted to catch whatever it was he was missing. He arrived at 3 in the afternoon. The house was quiet. He moved through it like a ghost, following the sound of voices to the kitchen. He stopped in the doorway, went completely still. Raphael was teaching the twins how to make brigadeiros, Brazilian chocolate truffles. Emma was rolling chocolate mixture between her palms, concentrating hard, her tongue between her teeth. Ethan was arranging the finished truffles on a plate, counting them carefully. They were talking, chattering, normal, happy. Can we make the yellow ones next, Rafa? The lemon ones? Tomorrow. Today we master chocolate. I'm going to make 100 and eat 50. You'll be sick, Emma said. Worth it. They laughed, both of them, clear, bright, perfect. Daniel stood there, frozen. He hadn't heard them laugh like that since before Catherine died, hadn't heard them speak in full sentences, with inflection and humor and personality. And they were doing it with a man they'd known for 10 weeks, not their father, not with Daniel, who'd moved heaven and earth to help them, who'd spent millions on specialists and therapy and medications, with the chef. Raphael looked up, saw Daniel standing there. His expression shifted, maybe surprise, maybe guilt. "Mr. Ashford, you're home early." The twins turned, saw their father, and just like that, like a switch flipping, they went quiet. The light in their eyes dimmed. Emma's hands started twitching. Ethan began to rock. "What's going on here?" Daniel's voice was controlled, too controlled. "We're cooking," Raphael said calmly. "The children wanted to learn. The children don't speak, they don't learn, they certainly don't want things." "With respect, sir, they do." Daniel's jaw clenched. "How long has this been happening?" "They've been coming to the kitchen at night for about 10 weeks. At night, when I'm asleep, when the cameras showed them in their rooms." Daniel's voice dropped. "You've been sneaking my children out of their bedrooms? They come on their own. I would never." "Get out." Raphael got still. "Sir, you're fired. Get out of my house, now." "Mr. Ashford, please, now." The explosion echoed through the kitchen. Emma started crying. Ethan began hitting his head against the counter. The transformation happened in seconds, from normal children to that familiar chaos of distress. Raphael moved towards them. Daniel stepped in his way. "Don't touch them. You've done enough." "They need. What they need is for you to leave. Mrs. Chen will escort you to collect your things. You have 30 minutes." Raphael looked at the twins. They were both crying now, both hitting themselves. Emma's forehead was already red. "Please," Raphael said quietly, "let me help them calm down. Then I'll go." "No, Mrs. Chen." The house manager appeared in seconds. She must have heard the shouting. "Escort Mr. Santos to his apartment. Watch him pack. I want him off the property in 30 minutes." Mrs. Chen nodded. She touched Raphael's arm gently. "Come on." Raphael let himself be led away. At the door, he looked back. The twins were reaching for him, making sounds he hadn't heard in months, those desperate animal sounds of pure grief. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but Daniel had already turned away. Daniel stood in the kitchen listening to his children scream. They were past the point where he could comfort them, past the point where anyone could reach them. He called Gloria, called the nurse, called the behavioral specialist who lived 3 towns away. It took 4 hours to get them calm. 4 hours of restraints and medication, and both children hurting themselves so badly they needed bandages. When it was over, they were back in their beds, silent, rocking, humming those 3 notes. Like the last 10 weeks had never happened. Daniel sat in his office and opened his laptop. He pulled up the security footage. Started at the beginning, 3 months ago. Camera 7, the kitchen. He watched it all. Every midnight visit, every conversation, every smile and laugh and moment of connection he'd been too proud, too hurt, too stupid to see was happening right under his nose. He watched Raphael cook with care and patience, watched him tell stories about his dead daughter, watched him never ask the twins for anything, never demand they perform or improve, just love them. Because that's what it was, love. The kind of love that shows up at midnight when no one's watching, when there's no reward, no recognition, no guarantee of anything. The kind of love Daniel used to have for Catherine before he let work become more important, before he took that meeting in Manhattan instead of coming home for dinner. His phone rang. Mrs. Chen. "He's gone, Mr. Ashford. Do you want me to call the agency about a replacement?" Daniel hung up without answering. The days that followed were hell. The twins stopped eating, just completely stopped. They'd take one bite of chicken nuggets and gag, like their bodies remembered there was something better and couldn't accept the substitute. They lost weight. Their pediatrician wanted to admit them to the hospital for feeding tubes. Gloria quit. "I can't watch them starve themselves," she said, tears in her eyes. Whatever that man did, whatever magic he worked, they need it back. Daniel hired a new nurse, fired her when she suggested maybe he should find the chef, hired another. She lasted 3 days. At night, the twins would leave their beds and go to the kitchen. Daniel would find them there in the morning, asleep on the cold tile floor, like they'd been waiting for someone who never came. Daniel's work suffered. He couldn't focus, missed calls, missed meetings. His partner started asking questions. Was he okay? Did he need time off? He needed time, but not off, back. He needed time to go back, to do everything differently. 3 weeks after firing Rafael, Daniel's daughter Emma did something that destroyed him. He'd gone to her room to try, again, to get her to eat something. She was sitting on her bed, rocking, humming. But when she saw him, she spoke. Bring Rafa back. 4 words. The first words she'd spoken to him in 6 years. Emma, you sent him away. Bring him back. Sweetheart, he was... Bring him back. She was screaming now, hitting her head against the wall. Bring him back, bring him back, bring him back. Ethan ran in, started hitting his own head in solidarity, in grief, in shared pain. Please, Ethan sobbed. Please, Daddy, please. We'll be good. We'll be so good. Just bring him back. Daniel collapsed. His knees hit the floor. He pulled his children into his arms even as they fought him, screamed, hit. I'm sorry, he choked out. I'm so sorry. But sorry wasn't enough. Sorry wouldn't bring Raphael back. Sorry wouldn't heal what Daniel had broken. That night, for the first time in 6 years, Daniel Ashford prayed. Not an eloquent prayer, not a liturgical, beautiful thing. Just 3 words, sobbed into his hands in his dark office. Help me, please. He didn't know if God was listening, didn't know if he deserved an answer. But he knew he couldn't do this alone anymore. Knew his pride and fear and need for control had cost him everything. In the morning, he started searching for Rafael Santos. Finding Rafael proved impossible. Daniel hired investigators, called every restaurant in a 100-mile radius, checked homeless shelters, Salvation Army offices, church communities. Nothing. Rafael had vanished as completely as he'd appeared 3 months ago. The man had no social security number on file, no address beyond the garage apartment, no references, no previous employers who Daniel could track. He'd been telling the truth about coming from Brazil, about working in Sao Paulo, but that was 15 years ago, and no one there remembered a chef named Rafael Santos. He was a ghost. Or maybe he'd just been so beaten down by life that he'd learned how to disappear, to slip through the cracks of systems that only track people who have something to lose. Daniel spent days driving through every town within 3 hours, showing Raphael's photo, one he'd pulled from the security footage, to anyone who would look. Diners, food banks, libraries. Have you seen this man? No one had. Meanwhile, his children were dying. Not physically, but that light that had started to come back, that spark of life Raphael had somehow rekindled, it was guttering out. They stopped humming. That's what broke Daniel. The humming had been constant for 6 years, irritating, maddening. Now he'd give anything to hear it again. Because the silence was worse. The silence meant they'd given up. 4 weeks after Raphael left, Emma's doctor called. Mr. Ashford, I'm recommending we admit Emma to Children's Hospital. She's lost 9 pounds. Her body is starting to shut down. We need to intervene. No, Daniel said. This isn't optional. If you refuse, I'll be forced to contact Child Services. Give me 1 more week. Mr. Ashford, 1 week, please. The doctor was silent for a long moment. Then, 3 days, that's all I can give you. If she doesn't start eating by Monday, I'm making the call. Daniel hung up, looked at the stack of dead ends on his desk, looked at the security footage frozen on his screen, Raphael, smiling at his children while they made chocolate truffles. He thought about what Raphael had said. Your father loves you, but he's scared. Daniel was scared, terrified, had been for 6 years. Since the moment he got that call, since the moment he realized he'd chosen a meeting over his wife's life. What if he chose wrong again? What if his pride, his need to maintain control, cost him his children? He picked up his phone, called Mrs. Chen. "I need you to do something. It's unconventional." "Sir?" "I need you to find every church in the area, every Brazilian community, every place a man like Rafael might go, and I need you to spread the word that Daniel Ashford is looking for him, that he needs to come back, that—" His voice broke. "That I'm sorry." Mrs. Chen was quiet. Then, "I'll start immediately." But Daniel wasn't done. He got in his car, drove to the Brazilian neighborhood in Newark, started going door to door, an Anglo billionaire in a $1,000 suit, knocking on doors in working-class neighborhoods, showing a photo, asking if anyone knew this man. Most people closed the door in his face, but some listened. Some looked at the photo, some said they'd ask around. By the third day, Daniel had been to 40 churches, 100 restaurants, countless apartment buildings. His voice was hoarse from explaining, apologizing, begging strangers to help him find the man he'd wronged. Monday morning came. Emma's doctor called. "I'm sorry, Mr. Ashford. I have to proceed." "Wait," Daniel said. "Please, just—" His doorbell rang. "Hold on," Daniel said. He walked to the door, opened it. Rafael Santos stood on his front step. He looked thinner, tired. He was wearing the same clothes he'd left in, jeans, white t-shirt, and carrying the same duffel bag. "Mrs. Chen found me," Rafael said quietly, "at a shelter in Newark. She said you've been looking for me." Daniel couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. "She said Emma stopped eating." Daniel nodded. "She said you drove through half of New Jersey looking for me." Another nod. "Why?" Raphael's voice was soft but firm. "You fired me. You threw me out. Called me—" He stopped, took a breath. "Why are you looking for me now?" "Because I was wrong," Daniel managed. "Because my children need you. Because I—" He had to stop, had to swallow hard. "Because I need you. I need help. I don't know how to do this alone." Raphael studied him. Daniel felt like he was being weighed, measured, found wanting, but maybe not completely worthless. "I'm not coming back to save you," Raphael said finally. "I'm not coming back to make you feel better about yourself." "I know. I'm coming back for them, for Ethan and Emma." "I know," Daniel whispered. "And things are going to be different. Tell me how. Whatever you need, whatever they need." Raphael shifted his duffel bag. "I want access to them anytime, day or night. No more rules about not speaking to them, not touching them. If they need me, I'm there. Yes. I want you to stop watching the cameras all the time. Stop monitoring their every move. Give them privacy. Give them space to heal without being observed." That one hurt. But yes. "And I want you to eat with them every night. No working dinners, no eating in your office. You sit at the table with your children and you eat what I cook and you talk to them." Daniel's eyes burned. "I don't know how to talk to them." "Then learn." They stood there, billionaire and chef, two broken men trying to figure out how to save two broken children. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "I'm so, so sorry." Raphael nodded slowly. "I believe you, but sorry isn't enough. You have to do better. Every day. Can you do that?" "I'll try." "Trying isn't good enough, yes or no?" Daniel thought about Emma, 9 pounds lighter, her body shutting down. Thought about Ethan, silent and rocking, that light in his eyes gone out. Thought about Catherine, who would be ashamed of what he'd become. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I can do better." "Then let me in." Daniel stepped aside. Raphael walked into the house, and somewhere upstairs, in her bedroom, Emma lifted her head, stopped rocking, whispered, "Rafa's here." Raphael went straight to the kitchen. Didn't go to his apartment, didn't unpack, just tied on an apron and started cooking. Moqueca, the Brazilian fish stew, the first thing the twins had ever eaten from him. Within 20 minutes, the smell filled the house. coconut milk, lime, cilantro, the smell of someone who cared. Emma appeared first. She was so thin. Her pajamas hung off her like a scarecrow's clothes. She stood in the doorway, tears sliding down her face. "You came back," she whispered. Raphael turned, saw her, set down his spoon, and opened his arms. She ran to him, collapsed into him, sobbed into his chest while he held her, murmuring in Portuguese, in English, in the language that transcends words. "I'm here," he said. "I'm here, Princessa. I'm not leaving again." Ethan came running, threw himself at Raphael's legs. "You came back! You came back! You came back!" "I'm here," Raphael said again. He knelt down so he could hold them both. "I'm here." Daniel stood in the doorway, watching. This should have hurt, should have felt like betrayal, like replacement, like failure. Instead, it felt like relief, like maybe, finally, his children would be okay. Raphael stood, still holding Emma. "Are you hungry?" Both twins nodded. "Then let's eat." He served them, small portions, careful, attentive. They ate like they'd been starving, which Daniel realized they had been. When they finished, Raphael made more. They ate that, too. Then Emma climbed into Raphael's lap and fell asleep, just like that, like her body had been waiting for permission to rest. Ethan leaned against Raphael's shoulder. "Don't go away again," he mumbled. "I won't, I promise. But I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to talk to your father." Ethan stiffened. "He sent you away." "I know, and he's sorry. He's trying. Can you give him a chance?" "What if he sends you away again?" "He won't. We made a promise, right, Mr. Ashford?" Daniel, still standing in the doorway, nodded. "I won't, I promise." Ethan looked at his father, really looked at him for the first time in years. "Okay," he said finally. "But if you make Rafa leave, I'll never forgive you." "That's fair," Daniel said. His voice was rough. Over the following weeks, Raphael rebuilt the routine. Midnight cooking sessions, teaching the twins to make Brazilian dishes, Portuguese dishes, comfort food from around the world. The chemistry of cooking, the art of it, the healing power of feeding people with love. But now, Daniel was included. Every night at 6, the four of them sat down at the kitchen table. Raphael cooked. The twins talked. About school, about their therapies, about memories of their mother. And slowly, painfully, Daniel learned to talk back, to ask questions, to listen, to be present. "Tell me about your mother," said Raphael one night. The twins looked at their father. He looked back, terrified. But he'd promised to do better. She was brilliant," Daniel said. "Funny. She could always make me laugh, even when I was stressed about work. She loved you two more than anything." "Do you still love her?" Emma asked. "Every day." "Do you think she'd be proud of us?" Daniel's eyes filled. "She'd be so proud. You're brave and strong and kind, just like her." Emma climbed out of her chair, walked to her father, hugged him for the first time in 6 years. Daniel held her daughter and wept. 6 months later, the kitchen of the Ashford estate was bright with afternoon sun. Rafael stood at the counter teaching Emma how to make pão de queijo, cheese bread, while Ethan set the table. 4 places: fork, knife, spoon, napkins folded the way Rafael taught him. Daniel came in at 5:30. He'd started leaving work at 5. Every day, no exceptions. He hung up his coat, loosened his tie, and kissed both twins on the head. "How was school?" he asked. "Good," Emma said. "I got an A on my history project." "That's wonderful." "And Ethan got in trouble for talking in class." She grinned. "For talking," Daniel repeated. "Imagine that." Ethan blushed. "Mrs. Martinez said I was being disruptive, but I was just excited about the science experiment." "Still have to follow the rules, kiddo." They sat down to eat. Moqueca, rice, farofa. The twins chattered about their day, About friends, about teachers, about the school play Emma wanted to audition for. Normal. Stunningly, impossibly normal. After dinner, Rafael started cleaning up. Daniel joined him. You don't have to, Rafael started. I know. I want to. They washed dishes in comfortable silence. Outside, the twins were playing in the garden. Their laughter drifted through the open window. The neurologist called, Dr. Martinez. She wants to write a paper about them, about their recovery. What did you say? I said no. This isn't a case study. They're not specimens. They're my children. Rafael smiled. Good. She said she's never seen anything like it. Selective mutism resolving so completely after 6 years. She thinks it's a miracle. What do you think? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. I think it's love, and food, and someone who understood them when no one else did. He paused. I think it's you. It's not just me, it's you showing up, doing the work, being present. I almost lost them, but you didn't. Because you came back, even after Daniel stopped. Why did you come back, really? Rafael dried a plate carefully before answering. Because I know what it's like to lose everything, and I know what it's like to get a second chance. I wasn't going to let you waste yours. Daniel nodded, set down the dish he was washing, turned to face Rafael. Thank you, he said. I know I've said it before, but thank you. You saved them. You saved me. No, Rafael said. You saved each other. I just cooked the food. They both smiled. Outside, Emma called, Dad, Rafa, come see the fireflies. They went. All 4 of them stood in the garden as darkness fell, watching fireflies blink like tiny stars. Emma held Daniel's hand. Ethan held Rafael's. And for the first time in 6 years, Daniel Ashford felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace. In the kitchen, Rafael's Bible lay open on the counter. Someone, Daniel maybe, or Emma, had underlined a verse in blue pen. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. Outside, the fireflies danced. Inside, 4 broken people had somehow become a family. Not healed exactly. You don't heal from trauma like that, not completely, but healing, together. 1 meal at a time, 1 conversation at a time, 1 midnight in the kitchen at a time. And sometimes, that's what miracles look like. Not dramatic, not instantaneous, just the slow, steady work of showing up, of feeding people, of staying when it would be easier to leave, of love that looks like turmeric and fish stew and teaching children to make cheese bread at midnight. Rafael Santos looked at his makeshift family and thought about Maria, his daughter, who would never grow up. He thought about his wife, who would never grow old with him. And he thought, maybe this is why I survived. Maybe I survived so I could be here, for these children, for this moment. Sometimes the life you build from the ruins of the old one doesn't look like what you expected. Sometimes it looks better.